Thank you and good evening. Welcome to our November 9th, 2021 Verona Public Schools Board of Education meeting. We're calling the meeting to order. It's 7:01, and if everybody will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the reading of the meeting notice. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the open meeting session that the Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its annual reorganization meeting held on January 5th, 2021. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Cedar Grove Times, the Star Ledger, the Township of Verona, and the VEA. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted at the Verona Board of Education office and on the Verona Public Schools District website. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has the right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public and the press. Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call for attendance?
Mr. Allworth,
Here.
Mr. Day,
Here.
Mrs. Drappi,
Here.
Mrs. Fresky,
Here.
Mrs. Prisco.
Here.
We have quorum.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And before we get started, I just wanted to formally and officially welcome Dr. Furnari as our interim superintendent. This is her first official meeting and day, so welcome, welcome. And on behalf of the board, we're really excited to have you leading the district for us while we conduct our search for our new superintendent. So thank you so much and welcome again. And with that, before we jump into the superintendent's report, we are going to have an opportunity to view the video that was produced by Dr. Dionisio talking about the state of our schools. So if we want to go down into the audience so we could see that. And we're still rolling, correct? All right, so that was a pretty incredible wrap up of what the state of our schools. And I think for us, it's important, and I think it's important for the public to know too, that a lot of those improvements and everything that comes out of there is based on our strategic plan. Nothing happens without that. And having that vision and that perseverance and that roadmap leads to the results, that we've seen in that video. So that's pretty awesome. And I do understand there was a little bit of a problem with the audio on the live stream. So it is posted on our webpage under the announcements, and it's been pushed out on social media too. So share it and be proud. I'd also like to comment, along with that came the publication of the Verona Public Schools magazine. So I haven't been able to read all the articles. I read a few of them so far, and it's really impressive for a small district what gets done here. And it's a tribute to our teachers, our administrators, our students, the whole community. So kudos to everybody for making it happen. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Furnari for the superintendent's report.
Okay, so Trustee and board, thank you so much for having me.
You have to push your, it's over here.
Okay, thank you. And I'm a singer. I should know about microphones. Anyway.
Oh, we should have you sing.
Some other time. I wanted to thank the board for selecting me as your superintendent and for having the confidence in me that you do in order to, help Verona continue the wonderful work that the video that was just shown demonstrates that you've been engaged in while you search for your next superintendent. To that point, I wanted to let you know that I have been sending out some communications today in addition to some of the meetings that I had on my first day today with several of our administrators. I also sent a greeting out to our staff members and one out to the parents in the community. And for those who may not have read it yet, I just thought I would read into the record the parent and community notice, just so that you have a sense of what that communication said. And I probably said a few of these things already. Dear parents and community partners, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself and to say how happy I am to have been chosen to serve as the interim superintendent of the Verona Public Schools. I am a lifelong resident of Essex County and am very familiar with your outstanding schools. I have been a teacher and administrator in a variety of public schools in the state of New Jersey for the last 38 years. I served as superintendent in Franklin Lakes and as interim superintendent in Green Township and Lafayette Township. Every experience has allowed me to grow professionally and to be reflective about my own practice. It is my goal to be of support to your school community as you engage in the process of searching for your next superintendent. I know how important it is to collaborate with administrators, teachers, parents, students, and members of the community in order to provide each student with the educational experiences they need and deserve. The health emergency has created an unprecedented set of circumstances that are having a profound effect on schools at a global scale. Through it all, it has become more and more important to keep the home, school, community connection strong. I am quickly learning about the many initiatives which the district is engaged in support of the academic, social, emotional, and mental well-being of our students, as well as the initiatives centered on the well-being of our staff and families, and I am committed to continuing those efforts. I am eager to become part of what makes Verona such an outstanding school district, and thank you for welcoming me into your school community. My plan will be in the next week to visit all the schools and also to collaborate with each of the administrators, so I get to know each of the buildings and start to learn more and more about what makes each school special. As I said, my goal here is to serve you and to make sure that you have what you need. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you once again, and that concludes my initial superintendent's report.
Excellent. Thank you So much. Does anybody have any questions or comments on Dr. Furnari's report? If not, we're going to go into committee reports, and I believe Buildings and Grounds, the Facilities Committee is the only one that met.
Correct. Two additional days. A lot of work was being done at Lanning, so they did some work at Lanning, Brookdale, Forest, and the AC lines, FM Brown. So they're able to get a lot of things moving. And there's a couple things that we're working with Tran, to finalize some communication items. So again, the project is moving forward and regarding the AC, and the plan is to have it completed by December at this point. So that's the goal. And right now, of course, we don't need the AC, so just having the heating and ventilation is sufficient. But again, the project is moving forward. Another item popped up on the grid regarding Alyssa's Laws grant. This grant is close to $125,000 to perform security work that would comply us, the district with Alyssa's Law. And there might be additional increase of about $60,000 to give us the full complement of the required security systems in place. And I want to read to you, because I was curious myself, what is Alyssa's Law? And some people don't know what that is in regarding the grant. Alyssa's Law is basically a law that was voted into New Jersey in 2019. Other states are voting that in as we speak during the years. But Alyssa's Law is a critical legislation item addressing the issues of law enforcement response time when a life-threatening emergency occurs and becomes time equals life. The law calls for the installation of silent panic alarms, and then we also putting in strobe lights that are directly linked to the law enforcement. So in case of any emergency, they will get to the scene as quickly as possible, take down the threat, or triage any victims. So bottom line is to try to get law enforcement connected as soon as possible to the schools and to the facilities and make sure their students, administration, staff are safe. So that's what Alyssa's Law is. And that's why this grant's so important, and that's why we're going to get to cover that. But there's also going to be a difference that we're going to need to do to give us, to make sure that we have every corner of these buildings covered and make sure we're following the law. And I think it's very, very critical. The last item on the list regarding our comprehensive school plant and maintenance study, Mr. Higgins and Mr. Cruz and I and Ms. Prisco met. And basically it's a plan where each school district shall develop a comprehensive maintenance plan to document prior year required maintenance and activities and expenditures, and the school district's plan required maintenance activities and budgeted costs for the following year and one subsequent year. The plan shall not include activities for capital maintenance or routine maintenance. So end of the day, what we're doing is putting a plan together that will be submitted to the county by November 15th. We do that. So basically, this is the plan that was put together that will be submitted to the district superintendent, Mr. Zarrow. And I didn't know, Mr. Cruz, if you were going to address any other items that we had talked about.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Day. So one of the questions that came from the public at the last meeting was regarding our maintenance reserves and our capital reserves. And the question came up that the budgeted amounts in the reserve column for the current operating budget of the 21-22 school year had a zero maintenance reserve in that budgeted public document, along with a reduced capital reserve. I believe it was a little over $500,000 compared to the 1.1 million that was in that audited budget from last fiscal. So the actual documents are correct. The public budgets that are posted, I did check in with the former board secretary, Mr. Turner, and the reasoning for that is that those funds was actually put in place into the current operating budget. There were some capital projects that were not related to the referendum, and that had to actually also be charged into that capital reserve. So he actually did that with that intent, and also with the intent of preparing for school opening. We at this time, because we're actually in our current audit of the 2020-21 school year, we're confident that our reserve will actually be recouped, and we're going to most likely report out on that towards the end of January, beginning of February. So even though the proposed budget shows a zero reserve balance for maintenance and reduced capital reserve, that's actually going to be posted and back up into a conservative balance after this audit that we're going to go through.
Mr. Cruz.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you
Day,
for that
were you
update.
done with, or you still have more?
No,
Okay.
that's it. I'm done. That was it.
Okay. So my quick question was going back to the Alyssa's grant. Are we applying for that grant money, or we have already been approved and we're receiving that 125,000?
We have been approved and are receiving.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question, just so I understand what you're saying, Mr. Cruz, is that what is posted on the website is in fact accurate, and the reduced reserves is due to school opening procedures that were outside of the original budget. We had to tap into reserves, and that is largely due to COVID policies and procedures, so we could make sure that we were adhering to like state guidelines. Okay.
That's
But
correct.
that we're and included with any ESSER funding that's coming our way, as well as our audit, we're expecting all of those reserves to be recouped.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Mrs. Jaffe, does anybody else have any questions or comments in regard to the facilities? If not, at this point, we have public comments on agenda action items. And I do not see. Oh, go ahead. Mrs. Jaffe.
I'm sorry. I have a question about the comprehensive school plant maintenance and operation program. It says anticipated for 23-24, the boys and girls weight room. Was the weight room not just redone through the referendum? No. Oh, okay. That was the training room. That was the trainer's room. Okay, thank you.
Very much. So we were going to move on to public comments on agenda action items only, and there are no public comments. So I'm going to open the floor to any discussion items, current or new or old business. And I'm going to open that up just to say congratulations. We have our election results and they're official. I want to congratulate Mrs. Prisco for earning the public trust and being with us for another 3 years. I want to extend my congratulations to Mr. Waka for taking the second seat. And I do want to thank Mr. Mueller for putting yourself out there and running a great campaign. You make yourself vulnerable. It's not easy. So I'm very appreciative, and we're looking forward to reorging in January with a new board and some new ideas. Does anybody else have any new or old business?
Yes, I would like to add a few things. Thank you, Mrs. Freshy, for those comments. And first, I would like to start off with, I just got a report that the girls volleyball team won against Rutherford. So they are our North 2 Group 1 sectional champs. They beat Rutherford in 3 sets. So kudos to those girls. They're amazing athletes. So congratulations to them. And I just also want to piggyback off of what you just mentioned, Mrs. Freshy. Congratulations to Chris Waka for joining us in January. Looking forward to working with him, and also to Ron Mueller for putting himself out there and, running a great campaign as well. I want to publicly thank people, my family members, for supporting me through this process. I would also like to thank every member up here for supporting me, administrators and all the staff, for all the support that has been given to me and trust. If people don't know me, by now. They should know that my passion is Verona, and I care very deeply about the community. So when things are said that are incorrect and false information, it's very, very hard to swallow and not say anything about it. And I know that my one thing here that I've heard from me sitting up here was that I was quiet, I didn't say much, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling everyone right now that's changing. I will be speaking out when I see that I don't like something that is being said. Because we work very hard up here, every single one of us, the administrators, the teachers, Dr. Dionisio, now our interim, our new super, every single one of us works tirelessly to do what is best for every child in this district, not just a handful, every child that walks through this building. So I will be very vocal. I was very eye-opening to me running this time as I did 3 years ago. 3 years ago, running with Mr. Allworth was a lot different. I know we didn't have this COVID pandemic and anger towards everything in the world that we do right now. It was a lot respectful, I would say, 3 years ago than it was this time. And was very eye-opening, not from the candidates running at all, but eye-opening from other people. And Verona's a small town. I grew up here. And a lot of people know, and a lot of people talk, and everything gets back. And it was very disheartening to hear some of the comments made, either via social media, wherever. But I know who supported me. I know who didn't, and that's fine. But it was very eye-opening to see true colors of certain people. So I will leave it at that. I am thankful that I am here to be part of the new search for the superintendent. That is our biggest job up here. And I am very passionate that we find the right person to lead Verona to the next phase. And the video that Dr. Dionisio provided with our strategic plan and everything that has been done to these buildings and the education to our students is just incredible. So I just want to keep seeing our district grow and make sure we keep the right people in Verona and not lose them. So thank you again to everyone that supported me. And I hope you realize how much passion I have for this district. So thank you.
Mrs. Prisco. Mr. Day?
So thank you for that passionate speech, Mrs. Prisco. I want to do a quick shout out to the boys high school soccer team. I had a chance to go to the game last night. My son played soccer with a lot of those players last year, and since he graduated, but I miss seeing soccer, so I wanted to see this game, and I went to a couple of games this season, and I sort of watched them progress, and they made it into the sectional finals last night against Glen Ridge, and it went to double overtime, double PK overtime, and they lost on like the final kick, and it was heartbreaking. It was heart-wrenching to watch, but it was a great game. The boys played with so much heart down to the wire, and it just comes down to PKs, which is a tough way to lose the game, but it was a great game, and I want to commend the coaching staff and all the players and all those parents that were with me when a kick was being done. So, but it was a great season, and I want to thank all the boys and congratulate them for a good season. On another note, I want to talk about contract negotiations with the VEA. Good news. We've agreed to contract terms and we agreed to the financials with the VEA. We do have the package that was sent over the weekend, and I had passed it over. Mr. Cruz had reviewed the documents to make sure everything was the way they needed to be on the financial front. I passed it to the board this morning to review, knowing that we have a new superintendent and Dr. Furnari, and decided to hold off on voting on it tonight. We will plan on voting on it next meeting on November 22nd. And we're very excited about that. So I want to thank the VEA administrative team. I want to thank Dan Roberts. I want to thank Mr. Cruz, Mr. Turner, Mr. Quattrochi came in to assist. Dave Freshy came in to assist. Mrs. Prisco and I got spend quality time together. And we look forward to moving this forward next meeting. So again, we're just going to do a final review. But I want to thank everyone for their help and moving this forward. And I know in the last, just want to throw it out there, for the last, I think 4 or 5 contracts, mediation had to get involved. This contract, we did not have to have mediation to get involved. So, which is a great thing. And we were very happy to be able to work in tandem with the VEA and move things forward. So again, we're looking forward to doing that vote next week, right? It's going to be in the agenda, Mr. Cruz? Okay, yeah, very good. Thank you. That's my update.
And thank you, Mr. Day, and thank you, Mrs. Prisco. I've been on the negotiating team. It is a lot of work. It's heavy lifting. So everybody involved in that, it was a team effort and it's a great job. So I look forward to reading through the packet and we'll proofread and make sure it's all good and we could absorb it and get that passed for the next meeting. The other piece of old business or ongoing business, I just wanted to update everybody really quickly on our superintendent search. So as everybody knows, we retained HYA to do the search. And between October 21st and tomorrow, November 10th, they have been conducting focus groups. And the focus groups were, without naming all of them, there were 13 took place so far, and tomorrow is the last one that's open to the entire community. It's been pushed out. There's a link on our website under the announcements. It's been pushed out on social media, but we broke it down into focus groups concerning the HBW, VHS, and elementary school teachers. Student council at both the middle school and the high school was one focus group. There's been support staff. They've reached out to our town leadership, the town council and Verona Police Department, the VEA executive team, central office. So there's been all these groups, and HYA is going to consolidate. They're going to take all of the feedback and anonymize everything and put all the comments together to create a leadership profile. So on the 22nd, that's part of our confidential session. We will be starting to get information and feedback on the executive profile. And once we have everything, then we're going to start pushing that out to the public as well. So that's moving along really, really nicely. And we had opportunity as board members also to speak to HYA to give our own input on to what we're looking for. So I think it's coming along really well. Does anybody else have anything as far as discussion items?
I just have something really briefly. First of all, congratulations to Ms. Prisco. Congratulations to Mr. Waka. Thank you, Mr. Day and Ms. Prisco, for all your work on contract negotiations. It is a huge time commitment, so thank you for that. With Teachers Convention last week, I had off, and I had some time to reflect on the meeting prior to this, the last October meeting. And one question or comment in particular stood out to me. A resident who made a comment regarding the questions submitted for the candidate forum. And her comment was, it just doesn't seem as if the questions had much to do with day-to-day board dealings, and that the questions were more administrative questions and not for the board. And she did make a comment that she wondered if the general public really understood what the roles and responsibilities were for the board. So in my free time, quote unquote, while I was off last week, I started to create a sort of presentation using Canva that we're hoping to push out early next year on our board website, really outlining the roles and responsibilities of the board. And this isn't my opinion, but it's taken directly from the NJSBA website. And just trying to take what they have already presented and make it really concise and bullet pointed and user friendly. And, hopefully moving forward, when we see things like candidate forums and the like, that those questions will be, that they can use that to help guide some of their questions as well. And, also questions that, are presented to the board, are board dealings going forward. So that just may help the public have a better understanding of what we actually do all day. So, thanks.
Mrs. Jaffe, it's a really good point on roles and responsibilities. And New Jersey School Boards Association actually will meet with SCAs and parent groups. They have a representative, Mr. Ray Pinney, who, if the SCA or Conference of SCAs is interested in doing a district-wide educational assembly, for lack of a better word, on roles and responsibilities of the board, I can get that information to the Conference of SCA leadership. And if they want to coordinate with the individual SCAs and do something, that would be great. So I'll push that information out as well.
That's a really great idea too. And my other hope too is that when people see what just the outline of what the roles and responsibilities are, that maybe they'll run for the board. Maybe we'll get more people to run for the board. I don't know. Maybe.
Make a comment too. Also, I had it noted on my little, what I wanted to talk about was also candidates forum, the questions. And thank you for bringing it up, Sarah. It was very different this time around with the questions. There was 18 questions, which number one, I thought was a little bit intense. I think it has to be looked at again going forward for the next candidates forum, should we have one. League of Women Voters and the Conference of SEAs, I believe, selected the questions that were apparently submitted. I do know a few people that told me they submitted questions that were not asked. And again, a lot of the questions were not something that a board member should be answering. There was questions that only I, as a board member, would have had answers to, because I was on the board, that Ron and Chris really couldn't answer. So it definitely has to be something that's looked at. It doesn't have to be an aha, I got you moment. It's very stressful to sit up here being asked a question that's 2 or 3 sentences long and then having to shoot right off your top of your head in a minute time to give some kind of an answer. And I did, because maybe I have too much time on my hands or something, but I watched Ridgewood's Board of Ed Candidates Forum and Wayne's Candidate Forum. And they had 10 questions and they were all basically not simple, but around the district, the strategic plan. What do you want to see in the future? What about the education? How about mental health? Not one question came up about mental health. That was very disturbing to me, that we did not have, out of those 18 questions, not one about mental health. After coming off of the pandemic, that should have been the number one question, not who we're hiring, not if we're going live stream with the meetings. So I'm going to get off my soapbox right now, and that's where I'm leaving it. But thanks.
All right. So with that, we're going to continue down our agenda, and I need a motion to accept the resolutions. And it's resolutions number 1 through 14, and I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi and second by Mr. Day. And is there any discussion on any of the resolutions 1 through 14? If not, and I don't hear any, I am going to ask Mr. Cruz to please do roll call on the resolutions.
Mr. Alward,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Strappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Fresky,
Yes,
Mrs. Prisco. We have quorum, motion passed.
excellent. Thank you very much. And we do have addendum resolutions. So I need a motion to approve addenda resolutions number 1 through 3.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi and second by Mrs. Prisco. Is there any discussion on 1 through 3?
Yeah, I would like to look at addendum resolution number 2. Which is the approval of the new group 45 Lemons to lead our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan of assessment and collaboration. And it's really just approving phase 1 of their plan. Dr. Miller, do you have a microphone? You could talk loud. If you maybe just want to just discuss briefly what phase 1 entails and what we're approving. Thank you.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Phase 1, or we call stage 1, is a process we will gather information so that when we lead our groups and we work with teachers and administrators, the goal is to actually understand what our mission is. We started this last year and we were ambitious and we learned a lot during that process. We think this time over the next few months, we'll work with 40 Lemons to do similar to what we're doing with looking for our superintendent. We're going to be running some focus groups. We'll be setting up some surveys and getting information from what we think from various members of the community. And then we'll pull the data together. We'll come up with some initiatives that we will look to lead in phase 2. Okay. You're welcome.
Are there any other discussions on the resolutions? If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Cruz to please do the roll call.
Alworth,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Fresky,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco. We have quorum, motion passed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And at this point, we are going to open the floor to public comments on any topic at all. And I do not see any. So I think that will be a wrap then. So I'm going to say that our next meeting, we're changing the date. It's usually Tuesday, November 23rd. But we have a conflict, so we are rescheduling that meeting for Monday, November 22nd. We're going to begin confidential a half hour earlier. It's going to begin at 5 p.m. and we'll be meeting with HYA to do the executive summary and get some feedback. And the public portion will begin as scheduled at 7 p.m. on Monday, November 22nd. And I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Day, second by Mrs. Drappi, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:50.
Aye.
Someone-
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.